What's up, everybody? Peter X is So Coffee here, and welcome to another episode of All Things Music. And today, gonna look at it looks like it's an emerging genre, and in many ways, it's a subgenre of funk. But I like it. I ran across someone else's podcast called "We Need to Talk About Prog Soul," and this is done. The podcast is called Polyphonic. It's on YouTube, and it's a video cast essentially. And so I gave it a listen, and I was drawn in. At first, I was like, well, everybody his name and falls under the big canopy or the Big Ten of funk, but I like it because it shines the light on some very, very important artists that they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they need to get their love. So, he didn't specifically link, and I never got the guy's name, but he never specifically linked. He did mention that some of the acts he puts into progressive soul are funk acts, and obviously progressive soul, basically starts in the early 70s and runs through the 70s. I guess this term has been around for about 5 to 10 years, and again, this is my first time seeing it, but I got to amplify it because I do like it. So he starts off and he links it to progressive rock. And so when you think of progressive rock, immediately Pink Floyd comes to mind. You got Genesis, in some ways Rush, particularly 2112 and stuff like that. Yes, early 70s, Yes is definitely progressive rock. In some ways, you could say Queen is progressive rock. And so, in order to, and he talks about the similarities and differences between progressive soul and progressive rock. The thing that kind of binds them, is that they both sort of come out of psychedelic music. At least a lot of the progressive soul. And there are elements of, psychedelic music in progressive soul. Not all of them, but so it's kind of I like the connection, because there's certainly a connection between progressive rock and certain black acts, and we'll get to that in a minute. So, what was what consists or what makes progressive rock unique? Well, you got many time signatures. You got weird chord structures, weird arrangements. It's kind of anti-pop in some ways. It's a little experimental, and it can be political. So, think of, particularly Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall by Pink Floyd, and some of Genesis stuff, and some of the, and the songs tended to be longer, what became classic rock radio, but was album-oriented radio in the 70s played that stuff. And so, yeah, that's the other big thing. The songs got longer. And so, where does progressive soul come in? Now, you don't have the time changes and the structure, stuff that you get in progressive rock, but you do get the politics, you get the anti-pop, you get the longer songs, and you definitely get the experimental stuff. You also get a little more of the experimental with percussion when you get into progressive soul. And they also mix jazz, funk, and gospel in sort of with that psychedelic mix. So why, I've been thinking about this, and the reason why, funk has such a big tent in many ways is because of George Clinton and Parliament-Funkadelic. Because, they bring, there's a lot of similarities, I think, between, particularly the early Funkadelic and Pink Floyd, and there's a lot of that psychedelic stuff in, the Funkadelic stuff in the mid 70s, 76 on back. So that really opens up the tent. That's why Jimi Hendrix is considered a funk artist. That's why even, Living Color, is a funk artist. So black rock, because of P-Funk, gets into that. And that's where that opens the door for the psychedelia. So, so who are these folks who are part of progressive soul? Well, if you did the Mount Rushmore of funk, we've done this before, and I've been on Facebook on the funk chat rooms, and everybody, hey, it's James Brown, it's Sly Stone, it's George Clinton, and it's Bootsy. Those are the big four. The Mount Rushmore, take a look at this. The Mount Rushmore for progressive soul is Sly Stone, Stevie Wonder, Isaac Hayes, and Curtis Mayfield. And they're all considered funk artists. They're all part of because of George Clinton, all of them are, Stevie and, Stevie could get funky, Isaac could get funky, but, Stevie didn't bring in the psychedelia, but Isaac did, with, Walk On By, Skip Hicks's guitarist, who was great, would bring in, and Isaac would stretch the songs out. He talks about, polyphonic, and we need to talk about prog soul. He talks about, Hot Buttered Soul and Isaac's remake of By the Time I Get to Phoenix, which is like 18 minutes long. And so that's the kind of stuff that progressive rock was doing as well. And then Curtis Mayfield, if there's a hell blow, we're all going to go. There's psychedelia in that. So yeah. And Stevie, so Stevie has that great run, in early 70s, Talking Book, Music of My Mind, Fulfilling This, Inner Visions, and ending with Songs in the Key of Life. And then, Sly is, there's a lot of, Don't Call Me Nigger Whitey, Sly coming out of the Bay Area in the late 60s brings a lot of the psychedelia, dance to the music, so Sly really brings in that marries, psychedelia, funk, pop, rock, doo-wop, because, in the early 60s, Sly was in the doo-wop band. So who are some of the other big ones, that fall under this progressive soul? Well, Marvin Gaye, particularly What's Going On. And in P-Funk, we talked about that earlier. But then you have the Temptations, in the early 70s, Psychedelic Shack, Cloud Nine, Ball of Confusion. All those have a little bit of psychedelia, and if you did we want to talk about another subgenre, psychedelic soul. Well, the Temptations are, on that Mount Rushmore. And then you got War as well. But what I like about it is, even though, Stevie's a legend, but, this is, Stevie getting on, and Isaac Hayes and Curtis Mayfield kind of getting on the Mount Rushmore of a genre, even if, all four of them do fall under funk, but it's nice that, and these are the kind of the godfathers of this genre. They influenced a lot of people. All of them, you don't have Prince, without progressive soul. So it's nice, to have this subgenre, it's its own thing in some ways, but but it is, it does fall under funk, thanks to, P-Funk. But it's nice again, you know, to do the lineage, particularly for, Stevie Wonder and Isaac Hayes and Curtis Mayfield, because, again, they are funk artists, but they have a different lineage in who they influence than Sly Stone, who's, on the Mount Rushmore of progressive soul and funk. So who's progressive soul influenced? Well, I mean, obviously Prince. Geez. I wrote a few folks down, but you could make an argument that, they influenced De La Soul and, geez, Tribe Called Quest. I mean, the hippie, the what they call hippie hip hop, from the early 90s. That all, was political, was a little more laid back than, I mean, progressive soul's not hardcore funk, and you could argue that. And then, Erykah Badu has a lot of, I think, she's in that lineage as well, coming out of progressive soul. Then the whole neo soul thing and lo-fi that's going on now, that all goes back, in my opinion, to, progressive soul. So, yeah, this is a quick one, but I ran across this new subgenre that is kind of percolating up. And it's nice that, we're starting to make the connections between some of the great, R&B acts / funk acts from the 70s and progressive rock, and, the cross fertilization and the influences on both of those genres / subgenres. It's also nice that, we're fleshing out the lineage of influence, when it comes to, particularly Stevie Wonder and Curtis Mayfield, and to acts even to today, because I mean, they sort of get lost in, just being under the tent of funk, because it's a very big tent with lots of subgenres. I know, Polyphonic argues whether, is Jimi Hendrix progressive soul, and he kind of he kind of is neutral on that, I don't know, is his thing. And no, I mean, there's a separate genre of black rock, and Hendrix can be there. And he does fall under, the big tent of funk. So, and then we can talk about Hendrix's, lineage. I mean, you got, the Isleys, Ernie Isley. That's another one. The Isley brothers, forgot them. They fall under progressive soul as well. So I'm just riffing as I go and remembering stuff. And he did mention Isley brothers. I knew I forgot a couple acts. But yeah, the Isley brothers, he does mention a little bit of Earth, Wind, and Fire too, because, some of the progressive rock folks, did sci-fi themes, Rush in particular. And then you get, P-Funk and Earth, Wind, and Fire doing sci-fi themes as well. So, yeah, love this connection. Love this. I think it's healthy and good that we're going back and, in history and looking at black musicians and tracing the lineage and giving folks their flowers and tracing the lineage from back in the day to the present. That's nothing but a good thing. Yeah, so this is a quick one. It's going to be interesting to see as this discussion goes along. I think, Polyphonic, and again, it's called We Need to Talk About Prog Soul, and I think he fleshes out pretty well and defines what this subgenre is, and I like it. The question is, do folks add to it? I certainly think there's a coherent theme with the acts I named, and I guess the question is am I missing anybody? So if you think I'm missing somebody, hey, just put it in the comments, because this is a discussion, this is an ongoing thing. and it's developing, and I'm open to suggestions, and hey, comment on what is Hendrix, is he progressive soul as well? I mean, he did get political as well, so is he progressive soul as well as under the funk umbrella when it comes to black rock? So yeah, so thanks for coming through. Got 6 albums of my own. They're attached to my channel here on YouTube. I'm on all the streaming services. I record under the name Exodus, Xodus. My first album is called Book One. Easy albums to remember. I have the 317 Volume 1 and 2. Let's see, I also write science fiction and fantasy right under the name Peter Exodus Okafor. 2 novels and a novella on Amazon. So thanks again for coming through, and I will see you next episode.